Hi there, traders. This is Brad Gilbert with FX Market Insight for Monday, the 7th of December. Right, as we sort of tick closer towards the Christmas New Year break, the dollar, well, it's sort of stabilized, right? Just on Mondays, it's a good idea just to take a bit of a back step, have a look across the board, see what happened at the end of last week, see what the current trend is, and see if there's any changes that we need to be sort of keeping an eye on. And as you can see here, just with the major pairs, one of the first things I noticed is this the major pairs, right? These should be all correlating. The dollar pairs going up and the dollar block going down, if that's the way. Now it's lighting up like a Christmas tree, all red and green. So they're all a little bit out of whack at the moment, and that's pretty common for a Monday, right? US equity markets closed the week slightly stronger, bit of a risk-on profile. But I tell you what, you look at that risk-on profile and you look what's happening on the major currency pairs, and it's sort of, the markets are waning. That's what happens, right? This is a geopolitical situation which is driving things higher. So the Aussies just trading sideways, Kiwis just drifted lower. You'd think with that risk-on profile, these things would go up, but they haven't. Now, dollar yen back in the range. Sterling's going a little bit higher, but there is a lot of news around the EU and the UK trying to get some deal done over this week or whatever it is. And you can see the nice up move here in euro. It's sort of nice, but look how far away support is, and it's trading sideways also. You'd expect the momentum to drop off on Fridays as we come into the weekends, and also when you consider the big news that was out Friday, right? The big macro news. So you look at the US employment numbers, okay, really good average earnings, slightly better unemployment rate. The non-farm payroll change, I should say, not quite as good as the forecast, but you know what? It's sort of, well, it's neither here nor there, but it's not terrible, right? And that could have been why the dollar stabilized against the basket. Mainly that's euro, but that's where we are at the moment. So we sort of may have found a little bit of a base just for the moment. Now, on top of that, we had some Canadian employment numbers, and it's a real every second month, right? The Canadian and US numbers come out at the same day. Next month, the Canadian employment numbers will be on a different Friday to the US numbers, but the Canadian numbers really good, right? Bigger employment change, better rate. Full-time, pretty great. I mean, part-time takes a bit of a dash off it, but participation rate, pretty close. So that's a pretty good number. That's, I'd say, why dollar CAD just went straight down and stayed down and kept going that way, right? So that's what we've got to be looking at right now. So to me, one of the first things I do when I come to the markets on like a Monday, I want to see what news has been coming out over the weekends, right? So US preparing new sanctions to China. That's Donald having his last throw of the dice at those guys. EU and UK, okay, calling it on a knife edge. Brexit talks, post-worst week in a month, blah, blah, blah. It's okay. So there's not a huge amount in here. A bit about Brexit, a bit about Trump trying to stick it to China again, and a few other things. I tell you what, there's not a lot of news here, you'd think, about COVID and lockdowns and all this sort of stuff. So to me, it's almost like propaganda. The stuff that we've been hearing from the ground in the States is quite, fearful. And you come to the major news and it's like blah, blah, blah. Who cares? There's not a lot to talk about. And the other thing that's not on here that I can't see sprayed across all over the place is all this news about vaccines. Okay, so where's that gone? So anyway, the news is, problematic at the moment because it's all geopolitical. So what you're going to do is focus on the opportunities. Now, just coming back to the major pairs, just quickly before I take you to the daily market insight. Aussie's still going higher. So is euro. To me, Kiwi is as well. You look at the Kiwi on the longer term time frames, it's still going high. This is a short term, it's like a short term market. It's long, a little bit of a squeeze through short term support. No major change in trend, but you know what, it is stalling. Aussie's stalling here as well as euro, but this is pretty typical of a Monday. And sterling's still going up, but we obviously do have that the Brexit deal hanging over sterling. That could go either way. Dollar CAD, well, you've got a stronger oil, you've got strong Canadian fundamentals, and you've got a weak dollar. This thing is going down for all the right reasons, right? So what you would be looking for is, if you're looking for a change in that trade, is a change in those fundamentals. I can't see it just at the moment. Now, isolate what's coming out this week. Now, we do have the Bank of Canada, I think Wednesday. We have the Euro meeting, okay, the ECB meeting on Thursday, right? So they're two of the key instruments. So what you want to be doing is looking very closely at the CAD and CAD crosses, Euro and Euro crosses for the week. We also have US CPI out on Thursday and a bunch of other, like this, the zoo economic sentiment, I think it is, out of Europe, which is going to be important to Euro. So there's a whole bunch of fundamentals coming out. Now, on a normal week, you'd be pretty pumped. But of course, we haven't seen any consistency across the board with the fundamentals. So that's why, you're sort of not really salivating, but slightly licking your lips. But keep an eye on the data this week. We are getting back to normal markets. As I said, there's less COVID news. There's less vaccine talk. There's more market talk, which is good for us. Right, we've got the US dollar. It is trending lower. The trend is not over by any stretch. Right, I still expect the dollar to track lower. But once again, it doesn't go down in a straight line. It could, easily rally back to 91.40 on the index before heading lower. If there's no change in the news or the fundamentals, then the trend continues, right? That's the way these markets work, right? So unfortunately, we've got random geopolitical events which could change very quickly. But, all those things aside, it's the trend for the dollar is down. The other pairs are going up. I can see Euro at 125. Aussie at 80, like these things can go another 4 or 5 cents before they run out of steam. Each Monday, they will stall as momentum completely drops off the radar. And that's what you got to consider each week. Don't get sort of balked out of this. Like average, right? We've got neutral momentum, low liquidity, which is a very common theme for especially the start of the Asian session on Mondays. And we're waiting for direction to come back into life. Right. And that's unfortunately the market drivers are seesawing geopolitical events. So it's a bit hard for us to isolate where the direction is going to come from. Now, as far as the market direction goes, long-term trend, no changes here across the board. But what we are seeing are shifts in the short-term momentum. Like dollar yen, it's just gone up. Kiwi stalling. The rest of the pairs, business as usual. Right. So pick your pairs, isolate the key important macros, which is to me, the Bank of Canada, the ECB meeting, and we're still waiting for the next potential opportunity. As it comes up, we'll post something there as well. But right now, there's not much more to do. I expect the trends to continue. As I said, until the news changes, they will slowly come back a bit, retrace, but they should continue their merry way. All right, guys, have a good one. Cheerio.